Hello YouTube and welcome back. This is Nico and you're watching Dare to Game. Today we are doing another episode of TV Tuesdays. This one is going to cover Season 5 of Game of Thrones. Just like before, we will be taking an episode by episode look at all the major events and characters for this season. Warning! This video will contain major spoilers for this season and potential spoilers for earlier seasons as well as the books. So with all that in mind, let's jump into Episode 1. Episode 1. The Wars to Come. This episode starts off with a flashback to Cersei's past, where a witch tells her that she will not marry the prince, but will marry the king, and that she will have 3 children, while the king will have 20, and that all 3 of her children will wear golden shrouds. In other words, that they will all die. In King's Landing, Tywin's funeral is going on. Cersei blames Jaime for his death because he released Tyrion. Lancel shows up as a member of a religious cult of the Seven, known as the Sparrows, and Margaery walks in on her brother and his male lover. She tells him to be more discreet, but he dismisses it, saying that everyone knows anyway. In Pentos, Tyrion is finally taken out of his crate, and we see that he has grown a lovely beard. Varys tells Tyrion that he has been working as part of a conspiracy to try and make Daenerys the new ruler of Westeros, and convinces Tyrion to go with him to meet her. In Meereen, the Unsullied remove a giant golden Harpy statue from the top of the Great Pyramid. Later, an Unsullied warrior is murdered by the golden Harpies in a brothel. Daario Naharis returns from Yunkai claiming the mission successful, and he and Hizdahr zo Loraq urge Daenerys to reopen the fighting pits. Daenerys then goes to visit her dragons, but they react with hostility, which makes her leave. In the Vale, Littlefinger and Sansa have handed Robin Arryn over to Lord Jan Royce, who is supposed to train him and make him a little less of a crazy wuss. Littlefinger and Sansa leave, supposedly heading for the Fingers, despite the fact that they are actually heading west. Unbeknownst to each other, the caravan passes by Brienne of Tarth and Podrick, who are camped in the woods. At the wall, Stannis Baratheon offers to spare Mance Rayder and the wildlings if Mance will bend the knee and lead the wildlings to serve him. In exchange, Stannis promises lands for them and citizenship for all the wildlings south of the wall. Mance says that he will not bend the knee, and Stannis sentences him to death by burning at the stake. Out of mercy, Jon Snow shoots Mance with an arrow, so he doesn't need to suffer through the fire. Episode 2. The House of Black and White. In King's Landing, Cersei and Jaime receive a threat from Dorne, comprised of a viper with their daughter's necklace in its mouth. Jaime and Bronn head to Dorne to rescue her. Cersei tries to set up a small council full of sycophants who will do her bidding, but her uncle Kevin will have no part in it. He leaves for Casterly Rock, saying he will return when summoned by King Tommen. At the wall, Stannis offers to make Jon Snow the new Lord of Winterfell and recognize him as Jon Stark if he pledges loyalty to him. Jon refuses, saying that his solemn vows to the Night's Watch are too important to him. Later that night, a vote for the new Lord Commander is held, and Jon Snow and Sir Alliser tie for the win. Then Maester Aemon casts his vote for Jon, making him the new Lord Commander. In the Vale, Brienne and Podrick come to an inn where they spot Littlefinger and Sansa. Brienne approaches Sansa offering her service, but Sansa turns her away. Littlefinger attempts to have the guards capture Brienne and Podrick, but they escape, as do Littlefinger and Sansa. Brienne tells Podrick that she will follow them to protect Sansa, because she does not trust Littlefinger. Arya arrives in Braavos and is taken to the House of Black and White. She is turned away by the doorkeeper, but spends several nights sitting outside. Then, while defending herself against several men, the doorkeeper reappears and takes off his face, revealing himself to be the one Arya knew as Jaqen, who tells her that she must become no one, to be joined with the many-faced god. In Dorne, Ellaria Sand confronts Prince Doran Martell, the ruler of Dorne, who looks suspiciously like a Starfleet doctor. She demands he take action to avenge Prince Oberyn's murder, but Prince Doran reminds her that her brother died in a trial by combat, which means that he wasn't murdered. She suggests taking out the retribution on Myrcella Baratheon, to which Prince Doran tells her that they will not harm little girls in Dorne. In the Flatlands, Tyrion and Varys travel in a wagon, and Tyrion expresses his displeasure at being trapped in a wooden box. Varys reminds him that Cersei has offered a lordship to the man that brings her his head. In Meereen, Daario Naharis and Grey Worm capture a member of the Sons of the Harpy. Sir Barristan convinces Daenerys that he should get a fair trial, but Mossador, a former slave, murders him anyway. Daenerys responds by holding a public execution where Mossador is killed. This results in a riot between the masters and the slaves. Episode 3. High Sparrow. In King's Landing, Tommen and Margaery are wed. That night, they consummate their marriage many times. Cersei tries to confront Margaery but is embarrassed in front of the ladies of the court. the Sparrows attack the High Septim in a whorehouse, and force him to walk naked through the streets while they chant, "Sinner." He demands the small council take action and kill the High Sparrow. Cersei instead imprisons the High Septim and makes the High Sparrow the new head of the faith. In the north, the Boltons are repairing Winterfell, and Ramsay has flayed some more people. This time, it's the family of a bannerman who refused to pay them taxes. Roose informs Ramsay that they need to legitimize their position to hold the north, and informs Ramsay that he will wed Sansa Stark. It is revealed that Brienne and Podrick have secretly followed Sansa and Littlefinger to Winterfell. At the Wall, Jon, the new Lord Commander, appoints Sir Alliser the first Ranger, despite Stannis' suggestion that he be sent to the East Watch by the Sea. Jon then appoints Janos Slynt as the new commander of Greyguard, a ruined castle which he would need to restore. Janos refuses and insults Jon in front of all the Night's Watch. Jon then takes him outside, and despite his pleas for mercy, Jon Snow personally beheads him, and Stannis nods in approval. In Braavos, Arya is in the House of Black and White, where she is given numerous menial tasks without any instruction or explanation. Later at night, she is attacked by the Waif, and Jaqen asks her how no one has become surrounded by the possessions of Arya Stark. Arya Stark then goes and throws her clothing and silver in the sea, but is unable to discard Needle, which she hides in the rocks. She then returns to the House of Black and White and washes a corpse. In Volantis, Tyrion and Varys walk through the streets and end up at a whorehouse with a look-alike whore who looks like Daenerys. Tyrion approaches a whore and tries to have sex, but after she accepts, he finds himself unable to follow through. He goes to take a piss and is kidnapped by Jorah Mormont, who tells him that he is taking him to the Queen. Episode 4, Sons of the Harpy. In King's Landing, Mace Tyrell informs the small council that the Iron Bank of Braavos has called in 10% of the crown's debt, but the crown can only afford to pay back 5%. Cersei sends him and Sir Meryn Trant to Braavos to negotiate a deal. Meanwhile, the Sparrows bust into Littlefinger's brothel and arrest Sir Loras Tyrell for the crime of bum fancy. King Tommen goes to get him released, but wusses out when the Faith Militant don't listen to him. Marjorie contacts Olenna. At the Wall, Jon sends out letters to many Northern Lords asking for reinforcements, because they only have 50 Night's Watchmen left at Castle Black. Melisandre tries to convince Jon to join Stannis' attack on Winterfell, but he refuses. She then tries to seduce him, but he resists. She then leaves saying, "You know nothing, Jon Snow." Meanwhile, Stannis tells Shireen about how he cured her grayscale when she was young. At Winterfell, Sansa Stark lights candles in the crypt for her dead relatives. Littlefinger tells her about her aunt and how the rebellion started. He then tells her that Stannis' army is likely to take Winterfell soon, and that she will be made the Wardeness of the North. He then leaves for King's Landing. In Dorne, Jaime and Bronn land. They are found by 4 Dornish guards, whom they are forced to kill after being discovered to be from King's Landing. Meanwhile, the Sand Snakes plan to do what they can to start a war between the Lannisters and Dorne. On the Summer Sea, Jorah Mormont attacks a fisherman and steals his boat. He takes his captive, Tyrion, and sets sail. In the morning, Tyrion deduces Jorah's identity and learns that he is being taken to Daenerys, not his sister Cersei. When Tyrion presses Jorah about his motives for bringing him to Daenerys, Jorah knocks him out. In Meereen, Sir Barristan tells Daenerys about her older brother Rhaegar Targaryen, and how he used to go out and sing in King's Landing. Daenerys leaves to attend to Hizar Zo Lorak, who again requests that the fighting pits be reopened, and Sir Barristan goes to promenade around Meereen. In the streets, the Sons of the Harpy attack a patrol of Unsullied, killing most of them, leaving Grey Worm to fend for himself. Sir Barristan shows up and kills many Sons of the Harpy, but is stabbed several times. Grey Worm kills the last Son of the Harpy before he can slit Sir Barristan's throat, and they both collapse. Episode 5, Kill the Boy. In the north, Brienne and Podrick arrive at an inn near Winterfell, and get a message to Sansa through people still loyal to the Starks that if she is in trouble, she should light a candle in the top window of the broken tower. Ramsay's lover shows Sansa to the kennels where she finds Reek. At dinner, Ramsay forces Reek to apologize to Sansa for killing Bran and Rickon. After dinner, Roose asks Ramsay to help him resist Stannis' attack. At the Wall, Jon seeks Maester Aemon's advice about his plan to ally with the Wildlings. Maester Aemon tells him to kill the boy and let the man live. By this, of course, he means that as Lord Commander, he must do what he thinks is right. Jon frees Tormund Giantsbane and agrees to go with him to Hardhome to convince the Wildlings to settle south of the Wall and ally with the Night's Watch. Jon presents this plan to his brothers and faces steep resistance. Stannis talks to Samwell Tarly in the library and asks him about Dragonglass and White Walkers, and tells him to continue his research. Stannis then tells Davos that he intends to march for Winterfell in the morning. In Meereen, Grey Worm is revealed to have survived his wounds from the last episode. However, Sir Barristan has not, and he is now dead. Grey Worm admits to Missandei that he was scared he would never see her again. Daenerys orders all the leaders of the great houses arrested, and has one eaten by her dragons. Daenerys then agrees to reopen the fighting pits and agrees to marry his Dar Zolarak in order to try and make peace in Meereen. In Valyria, Tyrion deduces that Jorah is using the runes as a shortcut to get to Meereen. The two are then attacked by a group of stone men, and Tyrion is forced overboard. Tyrion is rescued by Jorah, who gets him safely to shore. The episode ends with the reveal that Jorah has contracted grayscale from the attack. Episode 6, Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken. In Braavos, Arya continues her training, mostly by washing dead corpses. She tries to play the game again with the waif, and learns that the game is about telling convincing lies. Arya plays the game with Jaqen, who sees through each of her lies, including that she hated the Hound. A sick girl comes to the House of Black and White, and Arya lies to her and gives her the poison water. Arya cleans the girl's corpse, and then Jaqen takes her down to the room where she sees all the faces of the people who died in the temple. Jaqen tells Arya that she is not ready to become no one, but that she is ready to become someone else. In Dorne, Jaime and Bronn disguise themselves and make their way to the Water Gardens. They try to take Myrcella Baratheon away, but are ambushed by the Sand Snakes. A group of Dornish guards intervenes and takes both groups prisoner. On the Valyrian Peninsula, Tyrion and Jorah continue on towards Meereen on foot. Tyrion explains that he is on the run because he killed Tywin, and also tells Jorah about his father's death at the hands of the Night's Watch. They are captured by slavers, but Tyrion convinces the slavers that they would be worth more if sold into the fighting pits. In King's Landing, Littlefinger returns where he finds his brothels have been destroyed, and that the Sparrows have all but taken over. He is confronted by Cersei, who doubts his loyalty, but he then informs her that Sansa Stark is in Winterfell and is going to marry Ramsay Bolton. He then tells her about Stannis' impending attack and tells her that he plans to use the Knights of the Vale to attack the victor if she then makes him Warden of the North, which she agrees to. Meanwhile, Olenna Tyrell arrives and attempts to get Loras Tyrell released, and tells Cersei that her actions have placed the Lannister-Tyrell alliance in jeopardy. At the Holy Inquest, Margaery defends Loras, and they both insist that he isn't a homosexual, but the Sparrows bring in Oliver as a surprise witness who insists that he is Loras Tyrell's lover, and that Margaery knew about their affairs. The High Sparrow then says that there is sufficient evidence for a trial and imprisons them both. Tommen pusses out and does nothing. In Winterfell, Ramsay's ex-lover Miranda tries to intimidate Sansa by telling her about the girls Ramsay has murdered, to which Sansa replies that this is her home and that she will not be intimidated. Reek then arrives and escorts Sansa to the Godswood tree. There she is wed to Ramsay. Later that night, Ramsay forces Reek to watch while he rapes Sansa. Reek seems to disapprove. Episode 7, The Gift. At the Wall, Jon and Tormund leave and head for Hardhome with several other rangers. Maester Aemon dies, and Samwell gives the eulogy. Then, Gilly is assaulted by two Night's Watchmen, and Sam tries to defend her, but is beaten pretty badly before Ghost saves him. Afterwards, Gilly and Sam have post-beating sex. At Winterfell, Sansa asks Reek to signal the Stark sympathizers by placing a lit candle in the top window of the broken tower. Reek tells Ramsay, who then flays the old woman who told Sansa about the signal. How he found out who told her, I'll never know. Sansa discreetly steals a corkscrew from the top of the barrel and then is locked back in her room. In the north, Stannis' troops have made camp and have been trapped by the storm. Davos suggests that they return to Castle Black. Stannis refuses, stating that this could delay them for years. A group of mercenaries abandons Stannis' army. Melisandre asks Stannis if she can sacrifice his daughter Shireen, and Stannis refuses. In Meereen, Tyrion and Jorah are sold to a man who intends to enter them into the fighting pits. Daario Naharis suggests having all the Meereen nobles killed at the fighting pits, but Daenerys refuses. In the arena, Jorah easily defeats the other opponents and is revealed to Daenerys. Daenerys is about to order Jorah to be taken away when he presents Tyrion as a gift. In Dorne, Myrcella asks Jaime why he came to get her, and informs him that she loves Tristan and wants to marry him. In the dungeon, Bronn is taunted by the snakes, and is revealed that he was cut with a dagger that was coated with a poison known as the Long Goodbye, which is activated by his blood rate increasing when Tien Sand exposes her nude body to him. She gives Bronn the antidote once he admits that she is the most beautiful woman in the world. In King's Landing, Olenna tries to get Margaery and Loras released. She tries to bribe the High Sparrow, which doesn't work. She then threatens to stop sending food to King's Landing, which will result in many deaths, but he remains unfazed. She then receives a summons from Littlefinger. Cersei promises Tommen that she will try to get Margaery and Loras released. Olenna meets with Littlefinger and warns that if her house falls, his involvement in Joffrey's death will not be kept secret. Cersei goes to see the High Sparrow, and he informs her that her cousin Lancel has informed on her about her incestuous affairs and about her involvement in the death of King Robert Baratheon. Cersei is then imprisoned in a cell awaiting her trial. Episode 8. Hardhome. In King's Landing, Cersei remains imprisoned. She is offered water in exchange for a confession, which she refuses. Qyburn visits her and informs her that Grand Maester Pycelle has taken control of the Small Council and has made her uncle Kevin the new Hand of the King. When he leaves, Qyburn tells Cersei that the work continues. In Braavos, Arya assumes the identity of Lana, a local oyster salesman. She practices her acting and begins to investigate a life insurance salesman who has refused to pay out a policy on one of his clients. Jaqen orders Arya to learn all she can about him before poisoning him. At the Wall, Sam is resting from his injuries. Ollie asks Sam why Jon has decided to ally with the Wildlings, and Sam tells him that without the Wildlings' help, they have no chance against the Whites. In Winterfell, Sansa asks Reek why he betrayed her to Ramsay. Reek tells her that there is no escaping Ramsay. Sansa demands Reek explain why he killed Bran and Rickon, and Reek admits that it wasn't actually the Stark boys, and that he just murdered 2 innocent farm boys. Meanwhile, Ramsay convinces Roose to give him 20 good men and let him weaken Stannis' camp. In Meereen, Tyrion and Jorah are taken before Daenerys. Tyrion convinces Daenerys to spare Jorah, but tells her that she cannot let Jorah serve her, so she exiles Jorah again. Later, she informs Tyrion that she intends to let him live and advise her. Daenerys informs Tyrion that she wants to reclaim the Iron Throne, with the support of the common people, to which Tyrion responds that she had the support of the common people in Meereen, and it hasn't helped her. Tyrion then tells her that she can't reclaim the Iron Throne without the backing of a powerful Westerosi house, and she compares the houses of Westeros to spokes on a wheel, and she says that she plans to break the wheel. Meanwhile, Jorah Mormont returns to Yazen Zo Kagaz and convinces him to allow Jorah to fight in the pits. At Hardhome, Jon, Tormund, and the other Night's Watchmen arrive and find that the Lord of Bones has become the de facto ruler. Tormund kills the Lord of Bones and calls a meeting with the elders to discuss the alliance. Cersei, Tormund, and about 5,000 wildlings agree to go with Jon Snow, but the Thenns refuse. During the evacuation, Hardhome is attacked by an army of whites that overrun the majority of the remaining wildlings. Jon fights and kills a White Walker with his Valyrian steel sword. Many people die, but Jon and many wildlings escape. As they are leaving, Jon Snow sees the Night King raise all the dead to join his giant army of the dead. Episode 9. The Dance of Dragons. In Braavos, Arya continues to pretend to be an oyster salesman. While on her mission, she witnesses the arrival of Mace Tyrell and Meryn Trant. She then ignores her mission and follows Meryn Trant to a brothel, where she discovers that he is a pedophile. She returns to the House of Black and White and tells Jaqen that the Thin Man wasn't hungry today, and that she would have to try again tomorrow. It is unclear whether or not Jaqen believes her, but he allows her to continue. At the Wall, Jon arrives back with the surviving Night's Watchmen and the Wildlings. Sir Alliser lets them through. Jon believes his mission was a failure because so many died, but Sam points out that he saved thousands. Sir Alliser tells Jon that this will likely get them all killed. In Dorne, Jaime tells Prince Doran that he is there to take Myrcella back to King's Landing because they received a threatening message from Dorne. Prince Doran realizes that it was sent by Ellaria and agrees to let them go as long as Tristan is allowed to accompany them and take Prince Oberyn's place on the Small Council. Jaime agrees. Tristan allows Bronn to go free after having Erohota strike him really hard. Prince Doran confronts Ellaria and demands that she swear loyalty to him or be executed. She swears loyalty, and Doran tells her that this is her last chance. Ellaria then tells Jaime that she understands that Prince Oberyn's death was not his or Myrcella's fault. In the north, Ramsay and his 20 men infiltrate Stannis' camp and burn all their supplies, as well as many of the horses. Davos suggests retreating to Castle Black. Stannis yet again refuses, but sends Davos to Castle Black demanding supplies and reinforcements in return for him fully manning the wall once he takes the Iron Throne. With Davos gone, Stannis proceeds to have his own daughter, Shireen, burnt at the stake to try and please the Lord of Light. Having last-second change of heart, Selyse tries to stop the ceremony but is restrained as her daughter is burnt alive, and Stannis' men watch on in horror. In Meereen, Daenerys and company attend the opening fight of the Great Games in the fighting pits. In round 2, Jorah reveals himself after winning and throws a spear at the royal box, striking a would-be assassin. Suddenly, the Sons of the Harpy attack, killing many spectators, including Hizdar. The Unsullied, Jorah, Daario, and Tyrion try to get Daenerys out of the arena, but are trapped by the Sons of the Harpy. At the last second, Daenerys' dragon, Drogon, flies in and kills many of the sons of the Harpy. Daenerys climbs on his back and then flies away. Meanwhile, the dragon attack allowed the remaining Unsullied, as well as Jorah, Tyrion, Missandei, and Daario Naharis to escape the arena. Episode 10, Mother's Mercy. In the north, at Stannis' camp, the weather has improved drastically. Melisandre takes credit, and says that by sacrificing Shireen, Stannis has pleased the Lord of Light and will be victorious. However, Stannis is then informed that executing Shireen has led to over half of his army to desert him, and that his wife has killed herself. Melisandre immediately flees to Castle Black. Despite all of this, Stannis marches on Winterfell. The Boltons lead a cavalry charge against Stannis' small army and defeat them. Stannis survives, but is then executed by Brienne of Tarth for the murder of Renly Baratheon. Sansa Stark, meanwhile, tries to escape Winterfell by picking the lock on her door with the corkscrew she snatched previously. After seeing that the Boltons were victorious, she tries to go back to her room, but is confronted by Miranda, who then threatens to mutilate Sansa. Theon saves Sansa by throwing Miranda from the ramparts to her death. Sansa and Theon then escape Winterfell by jumping over the wall into the deep snow below. In Dorne, Jaime, Tristan, and Myrcella leave for King's Landing. On the ship, Myrcella tells Jaime that she knows that he is her real father and that she is glad. Myrcella then starts bleeding from the nose and collapses. It is revealed that she has been poisoned by Ilaria when she kissed her wearing poisoned lipstick. In Braavos, Arya returns to the brothel in disguise and is beaten by Meryn Trant. She then reveals her true identity and stabs him many times and explains that she is there to avenge Syrio Forel before slitting his throat. Arya then returns to the House of Black and White and is confronted by Jaqen and the Waif. Jaqen tells her that she took a life that was not meant for her to take, and that the many-faced god demands a life for a life. Then he drinks a vial of poison and dies. Then the Waif changes her face to Jaqen's and explains that Jaqen never existed, and that this entire time Arya has been talking to no one. The Waif also warns Arya that putting on a new face, if one is not no one, is like poison, and Arya is then struck blind. In Meereen, Daario and Jorah set out to find Daenerys, leaving Tyrion, Grey Worm, and Missandei in charge of Meereen. While watching Jorah and Daario leave, Tyrion is approached by Varys, who offers to help Tyrion wrest control of Meereen, just like he did with King's Landing. In the Dothraki Sea, it is revealed that Daenerys still has little to no influence or control over Drogon. Daenerys then wanders off to try and find food, but is surrounded by a Dothraki horde. Daenerys secretly drops her ring in the grass before being surrounded. In King's Landing, Cersei admits to her affair with her cousin, but denies an affair with Jaime or any involvement in Robert Baratheon's death. The High Sparrow says that she can return to the Red Keep, but first must undergo atonement. She is then stripped naked and has her hair cut off before being made to walk naked all the way from the Sept of Baelor to the Red Keep. Once she arrives, Qyburn covers her up and introduces her to the newest King's Guard, a reanimated Gregor Clegane. At the wall, Jon sends Samwell to Old Town to become a maester, along with Gilly and her baby, acknowledging and even somewhat endorsing the romantic relationship blossoming between Samwell and Gilly. Davos arrives shortly after to ask for supplies and wildling reinforcements, but Jon refuses, reminding Davos that the wildlings will never fight for Stannis. Melisandre arrives soon after. Her demeanor leads Jon and Davos to realize that Stannis has been defeated and that Shireen and Selyse are dead. At night, Olly tells Jon that the wildling had recently seen his uncle Benjen Stark, and takes him to speak with him. Led outside to the courtyard, he only finds Sir Alliser, Bowen Marsh, Othel Yarwick, and a handful of men, along with a post that reads traitor. As Jon realizes that he has been betrayed, Alliser, Bowen, Othel, Olly, and the others take turns stabbing Jon, each uttering, "For the Watch." The men leave Jon as he dies alone in the snow. So that does it for a complete summary of the season. So now you should be fully refreshed and well aware of all the important events of this season, and the movements of all the important players. Lots of deaths in this season, and we finally see the For the Watch and the shame, shame, shame scenes that I had previously seen on Family Guy. So now let's get to characters. Those that I like, those that I'm not sure about, and those that I despise. Then we will get into my favorite episode of the season, and talk about which house is the best, and which house is the worst. So as always, we'll start off with characters that I like. So, starting off the list of characters that I like this season, we have Dr. Julian Bashir, otherwise known as Prince Doran. I think that his acceptance of his brother's death was done not only out of wisdom and not wanting to see his country destroyed by war, but also out of respect for his brother, Prince Oberyn, who he knows would not want him to harm Myrcella due to his own personal beliefs. I think the performance was superb, and I hope to see more of him in the future. Next we have Bronn, who has returned to the list with more screen time. He remains a funny, honest, and skilled character, who has once again endeared himself to the viewers. I am glad Jaime decided to take Bronn with him, because I think their back and forth might be my favorite so far. I think this season showcased his skills better than the previous seasons and expanded on his character quite a bit. Of course, we have Jon Snow, who continues to be a character that I quite like. This season shows that unlike many of his brothers in the Night Watch, he is able to look past petty feelings and distrust for the betterment of the realm. I think he has shown that he is capable of becoming a great leader, and I think that it is no coincidence that Melisandre has arrived back at the Wall right as Jon was murdered by his brothers. I predict that she will bring him back to life, just like the leader of the Brotherhood without banners was brought back to life last season. Then we have Sir Barristan Selmy. I have long thought that he was a good character, but not until this season did he really tip the scales into great. He is not only wise and greatly experienced, but a genuinely good person. He gives Daenerys her best counsel, and in his last stand he slaughtered his enemies and saved Grey Worm. Although sad, his ending was at the least a great send-off. Lastly, Tormund Giantsbane takes the last slot on my like list. He has now become a character that I feel comfortable liking. Not only has he sided with Jon Snow and continues to be a badass, but he also killed the Lord of Bones, who I wasn't a fan of. I hope he takes a large part in the seasons to come. Next up, let's look at some middle ground characters, those that I don't necessarily like, but I don't necessarily hate. So for starters here, we have Arya Stark. I want to like her, but her time on screen is mostly aggravating this season. And part of this is likely because of the aggravating method of training that the men with no face utilize. I understand that we as viewers are supposed to be confused or left wondering, but in practice this would be a really bad way to train people, and would almost always lead to failure. That being said, I did like how Arya killed Meryn Trant, and I hope that she gets her vision back quick so she can go get some more revenge. Next up we have Sansa Stark. Here, I am surprised that she made a positive impact on me. I think that she is becoming a character that I can say I like. She is starting to grow up and show some strength. I think that she is also learning how to play the game, this making her the first Stark to do so. I hope that she is able to escape Winterfell with Theon and eventually reclaim it from the Boltons. Then there's Tommen Baratheon. Although I don't hate him, mostly because I believe his weakness can be explained by Cersei's manipulation and by his young age and lack of experience, but seriously, he has more than enough manpower to kill all of the Faith militant and free his wife. And he pusses out time and time again. He is blowing his opportunity to be a good king because of his inaction and lack of intelligence. Like I said, I don't hate him, but I'm not a big fan. Lastly, we have Petyr Baelish, otherwise known as Littlefinger. This season had a lot of Littlefinger stories, which means that he was likely to once again make one of my lists. This time, I'm not sure exactly how I feel about him. On one hand, I am glad that he saved Sansa and killed Joffrey. But on the other hand, he is constantly plotting to betray basically everyone, and he married off Sansa to the family that killed her mother and her brother. Like many others, I don't hate him yet, but I'm getting close. So lastly for characters, we have characters that I straight up hate. So for starters here, we of course have Cersei Lannister, who now takes the title as longest most hated character in Game of Thrones for me. She continues to be a major manipulative bitch throughout this entire season. Despite getting some pretty serious punishments this season, I still don't think it's enough, and I honestly won't be happy till I see her head on a pike. Next up we have Stannis Baratheon. Now, previous to this season, I wasn't a huge fan of him, but I also thought he had potential. All of that ended when he burnt his own daughter alive to try and please the Lord of Light to win a battle. I am glad that as a direct result of this action, everyone abandoned him, and it led to his death. I am glad that Brienne was able to get her revenge against him, and I am glad that he is now dead. Then we have Ramsay Bolton. In this season, he has continued his habit of being a generally terrible person. Whether it is his continued addiction to torture and murder, or his abuse and rape of Sansa Stark, I'm just not a fan. I really hope that he is killed off by one of the remaining Starks, or maybe even a Greyjoy. Either way, I hope to see his death in Season 6. Lastly, we have the Waif. I just really can't stand her. I don't care about the whole many-faced god crap. I think she or he or it is a major twat. And I hope that either she changes drastically or Arya ends her sorry ass later on. Despite not being quite as terrible as many people in the show, she irks me in ways that the others don't, and for that she must die. As an honorable mention, we have an entire group of people, so not just one that we're looking at, but a group that I can't stand. That being the Sons of the Harpy. I really hate everything about them, and I hope Tyrion crushes them in Season 6. And that I never have to see them again afterwards. With these people, I mostly hate how they act as an unstoppable plot device to make trouble and chaos in Meereen, and how these untrained peasants and slave masters somehow manage to slaughter the legendary Unsullied warriors. So let's talk favorite episodes. So although this season didn't have any major standout episodes like Watchers on the Wall in Season 4, there were two story threads that I liked most of all. These two storylines were Jaime and Bronn's rescue attempt of Myrcella, and Jon Snow's mission to Hardhome. So, I think my favorite episode is Hardhome. For one thing, this episode contains the epic battle at Hardhome, where we get to see a full-on battle between the dead and the living, including Jon Snow's first White Walker kill. This episode also features Cersei being tortured in a cell, so that's great, and we see Tyrion allying himself with Daenerys, which I think will lead to very interesting storylines in the future. For these reasons, as I said, I have to give the title of Best Episode this season to Episode 8, Hardhome. So, as far as the best house is concerned, I'm pretty firmly aligned with House Targaryen. I think that as the contestants for the Iron Throne are weeded out, Daenerys' claim becomes all the stronger. However, I am also starting to like the Tyrells more and more. So we will have to see where it goes from here. So with that in mind, who do I think belongs on the Iron Throne? Well, now that Varys and Tyrion have allied themselves with Daenerys, I think it should be safe to assume that she is the clear choice. Despite her lack of experience, her choice in advisors has impressed me here. Hopefully Tyrion will help Daenerys become the ruler I hope to see. So now for the worst house. Now that Cersei is the last remaining Lannister that I actively hate, and that Stannis has died, leaving the Baratheons seriously undermanned, I have to pass the title of worst house, or more accurately, house that I hate the most, onto the Boltons. I think that their obsession with torture and brutality is disgusting and evil. I think that they are not suited to ruling a hill of mud, much less the entire north, and I think their cruelty and ill-advised actions thus far will catch up to them in the form of defeat and death. So my wish for next season is that Roose and Ramsay will meet their ends at the end of a Stark sword, preferably needle or longclaw. So that does it for this video. As far as ratings go, I would rate this season a 6.5 out of 10. I enjoyed Season 5 quite a bit, but overall I found it to be lacking in many areas. This season was the first to start seeing what I consider to be a large amount of filler content, and stagnant stories. In fact, the majority of this season consisted of characters traveling from one location to another, doing an awful lot of talking. To summarize, I would say that this season is likely to go down as the exposition season. Despite this, there were a few interesting storylines, and the acting was still pretty great. I liked to see Cersei tormented and tortured, but I wasn't a fan of Jon Snow being murdered by his own men. So now that we're done, please feel free to leave your thoughts about this season in the comments section below. Who was your favorite or least favorite character? What was your favorite episode? Do you agree with the rating I gave this season? But as always, remember to avoid posting any spoilers for future events and episodes. Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. If you did, I can assume you liked the content, and hopefully you'll subscribe and turn on the notification bell. If you haven't already, check out these links I have on the screen to see me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you like my content and would like to support what I do here, there's a link to my Patreon account in the description, and a donation would be much appreciated. In any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day.